Hey everyone, welcome back to the Final Fantasy XII Game Challenge, back with Final Fantasy V, opening up there with our next piano, up to a piano count of 3. Piano skill still increasing, and after a bit of a brief interlude with some side quests added off screen, we're here at Crescent Island down in the south of the map, and apparently earthquakes around here must be common. This guy's freaking out about another one coming, despite the earth not shaking at all. Avros is worried about the ship, so let's go and see what's going on with it. And unfortunately, the ship has moved out to the edge of the Crescent Island, and a whirlpool's appeared underneath it. So I guess that Crescent Island's on a fault line of some sort to have that happen. So there goes our ship. Guess we're stranded in this island, and yeah, Crescent Island's shape makes it so that there's not really anywhere else we can go. And, oh, I guess it was a whirlpool, as he says, and that guy's a jerk, saying it sucks that our ship's gone, and here's our next piano. And piano number 4, skills still going up there. Conveniently on Crescent Island, like I said, we're stuck here, there's not really anywhere else to go, is this forest here with a black chocobo in it. So Avros volunteers to capture him, being the one with the chocobo experience, and they're able to fly, so he's checking to see how this chocobo flies, only for it to crash back down to Earth and throw Avros off into the tree. And Galv says he didn't really giddy at all, so wondering if Avros broke him, and Faris notices something stuck in its throat and smacks it a couple of times, and out come a pair of crystal shards. So they come here all the way from Karnak, which is a long way, and we grab the shards and get 2 new jobs, Bard and Ranger. So there's the last 2 jobs from the Fire Crystal that we didn't get, and they check the Chocobo again to see if it can fly, and this might be our ticket off the island. And it sure is. That's our way off the island. So next up, we've got these 2 new jobs, starting with Bard. Not a very good class. Only a few abilities here, 3 levels to get. First one being Hide, needing 25 ABP. Ducks the user out of sight to avoid attacks, and so hides you, making you untargetable by enemies. You can't get hit by anything until you use the reveal action that replaces Hide and return to battle. But you also can't do anything else other than reveal, so useful in some situations. Level 2 is Equip Harps, which enables the classes outside of Bard to use the harp weapons, which aren't very good, and gives 11 Aegean magic to the Freelancer. And level 3 is Sing, which allows you to perform any of the songs you learn, mostly through playing pianos and from other bards around the world. And as long as the Sing command is maintained, the song's effects will continue to happen. There's a few that raise level or magic power, not going to use them at all. Next up is the Ranger, so has 4 levels on the Ranger, very strength and agility based class. So first up is Animals, gain the aid of woodland creatures, calls forth a random creature to assist you in combat. This can range from stuff like squirrels that do damage to birds that'll heal. Aim is a level 2 ability, raises the accuracy of attacks and performs an unblockable attack. Level 3 is Equip Bows, which adds strength and agility to the Freelancer and gives you the ability to use bows outside the Ranger class, which is a back row weapon with a little low accuracy, but they hit very hard from the back row. And level 4, this is the ability the Ranger's really useful for, is Rapid Fire. So you perform 4, as I put there in quotation marks, weaker attacks at once. So it actually makes you do 4 attacks in 1 round, but the attacks damage are halved, and the monster defense isn't taken into account for those attacks like it normally would be. A Rapid Fire can't miss, can't be blocked, and won't trigger special abilities of weapons at all. So what it actually does is put out a lot more damage than a regular attack by attacking 4 times. So next up is the town of Lix up in the north, and this is Avros' hometown. So a few interesting cutscenes here that cover off some of the backstory. So as the innkeeper says there, Avros can stay for free, seeing as this is his hometown, and he's well known around here. So this actually leads into our first cutscene. So As you can see, Avros isn't there in bed in the inn. You may be wondering why he's not staying in his own house. And Faris notices he's missing and goes to find where he is. And this scene here, Avros is standing at a gravestone, and Faris wants to make sure everything's all going okay. And Avros is at the grave here of his mother. And yeah, as he's mentioned, born in this village. His mum died when he was still young, and then he travelled with his dad for a while after that. And 3 years ago, his dad got sick and died, so he adds Dorgan's name to the gravestone there. As he says, always wanted to be buried with his wife. And Avros wants to be strong like his dad was. And Faris wonders what it was like to have a father, seeing as we know she grew up as an orphan. And so they head back to the inn, worried that Lena will find out they've woken up and will panic that they're not there. So everyone wakes back up at the inn, and on we go to our next cutscene. Savros talks to his friend here and says we should hang out like old times, and he has a flashback to when they were kids and we're playing a game of hide and seek, and there's little Avros with his blue hair, and so he decides to hide on the roof of this building, which is a fantastic hiding spot, because who would look for you hiding behind a chimney on the roof of a building? And, of course, doesn't get found, and he's up there till nighttime. And still no one's looking for him, so he's like, well, I guess I gotta get down out of here, and slides on the roof and gets caught on the edge, and can't get down, calls for help. The cutscene ends before you find out who did actually end up helping him, but that's the start of his fear of heights. And his friend says everyone teased him for being dumb when he was a kid, but now he's going to be a scholar because he's SMRT smart. A nice Simpsons reference there. And this is actually Avros's childhood home here with this music box. And there's a bard actually living in this house now, so he checks out his mother's music box, and the music starts up, and there's Avros in the bed, and his mom Stella putting him to bed, and another person there. And you find out that one's actually Dorgan, that's his dad, and Stella's one worried about him leaving again so soon, and he lets him know he's not going anywhere. And Stella, obviously not well, talking about spasms and all the rest of it, and Dorgan says she needs to get some sleep, but if you have a look around the house, there's only the one bed, so I'm not sure where exactly she's supposed to be getting sleep if she's unwell. And Dorgan runs over to Avros, he's like, I know you're not asleep, kid. And Avros wondering if Dad's off to fight more bad guys, and Dorgan lets him know that he is, but he needs to stay there and take care of his mother, rather than going with him and take care of her, make sure she stays okay, but not let him, not let her know Dorgan is leaving. And he says to not worry about what it is she's dealing with, because it can wait till morning, only to find her passed out in the kitchen, and you can see there are only the one bed, so yeah, Dorgan's very distraught by what's happening, and that was Stella dying, and then Avros left with Dorgan not long after that, so that's it for Avros's backstory. There's not really too much more to cover just yet, and they let Sid and Mid know in the Library of Ancients, they said they'd be waiting, that the ship's gone, and they found out where the Earth Crystal is, actually. It's on the other side of the Shifting Sand Desert, which is right near the library. And yeah, the king, as they say there, was seen heading across the desert, King Tycoon this is, floating over the sands, which is how he got there, because the shifting sands in the desert prevent anyone from making progress across it, and basically they decide, well, they've got to go and try the desert somehow, and Galuf makes a back in my day joke about how they used to cross boiling hot sands in the desert and didn't complain. So, as you can see here in Shifting Sand Desert, all these sands just constantly moving, and they just throw everyone around, and yeah, they can't get anywhere with the sands as they are. And Sid and Mid to the rescue again. And as Mid says there, not over till the fat lady sings, and the orchestra hasn't even started tuning up yet. What a weird thing to say. So, they've got a risky plan, but, you know, we're all about danger. They're going to use a bell to summon the worm. I thought you had to walk without rhythm to not track worms, but here you go. Sandworm fight in the middle of a desert. So, let's see what happens here. So Sid and Mid are going to use the bell, it has to make sure you're ready, and then they let you know right before the fight starts, don't use magic on the Sandworm. That'd be helpful to know ahead of time, guys, because, you know, if you had a party, say, of a red mage and 3 black mages here, you would be in some serious trouble. So they ring the bell, here's the Sandworm, and here's our next boss fight. So there's 3 holes, and the Sandworm just pops up out of a hole. Not doing the bestiaries anymore. These boss fights are easy enough for me to sort of cover without necessarily needing to go through them on the screen, and we'll see if we need to bring them back in some of the later episodes. So, but this one, the Sandworm just has a lot of health. As it says, you can't really use magic on it, except that you can. So as you can see here, Blizzara, there's no problem with using magic. The problem comes with the fact that there's multiple holes there, and if you attack any of the holes with an attack, they retaliate. I think I did actually do it a couple times this fight, but when they retaliate, they hit you with a really annoying attack that halves your HP, and also the Sandworm likes to hit you with Quicksand, which causes the sap effect and causes your HP to drain the whole time. So you got to be really careful about fighting this thing, because it does like to change position like that a lot, so you want to make sure that if you are using physical attacks, you just hit the worm and don't hit the holes. Berserker, which is one of the classes we talked about previously, is a really bad idea in this fight because you have no control over what it hits, and it can hit those holes a lot, despite the fact it does put out a lot of damage. So you might be thinking here, with Galuf being a summoner and spamming Ifrit here, why there's no retaliation from the holes. Well, summons basically don't count as hitting, so the holes don't retaliate. Which, again, summons being magic and then being like, don't use magic, it's kind of a weird thing. Here we go, attacked the hole, and there it is, gravity. Hits for half the HP on a random character in the party, so very, very much not helpful in this fight, especially that sap status from Quicksand. If you came into this fight without some way of healing, or without some decent way of dealing a lot of damage to the Sandworm to make sure it dies before this becomes a problem, this fight could be very, very difficult. I'm not sure why they have the whole don't use magic thing, other than AoE magic is a bad idea. So like if you cast Blizzara or Thundara as a multi-target spell to hit everything in combat, rather than just the Sandworm, it would hit both holes and you would get 2 retaliations. So this fight, keep health up, have something to deal with the constant draining from sap. Don't mess up your inputs like I just did with that attack with Lena, and attack the holes and get hit by gravity. And just keep your party healed, deal damage to the Sandworm. Summon is always a good option, because if it moves, it's hitting everything without hitting the sand holes, so you don't actually take any damage, and eventually the Sandworm will go down. Like I said, it's got a lot of health for this section of the game, so is a bit of an annoying boss. So having 2 characters able to use white magic here, Faris is the red mage, and Galuf, his assigned ability outside of the summoner class being white magic, makes this actually quite an easy fight for me. Just time consuming. Yeah, so the party makeup at the moment, I don't think I've covered this for a little while. So we've got Avros set up as a thief, trying to make sure he learns Mug, so he can steal stuff from enemies while still dealing damage. Later on in the game as a secondary ability. Lena's learning Mystic Knight to max out on the Spellblades. As I've mentioned before, Spellblade two-handed is an incredibly powerful ability, and Spellblade will go into a more powerful ability later. Galuf is going Summoner White Mage at the moment. White Magic is high enough on him to not need to do anything else with it, so he's just mostly Summoner, and Faris is in that Red Mage to learn Dual Cast, which requires the ridiculous 999 ABP, so there will be a method we use later to make sure we get that all done. So they tell us to take care, and we end up going south of the desert into the town of Ruin. So I've sped this footage up to make this a bit more interesting. You run around the town of Ruin, and you get to do something very interesting, which we'll see here in a second. There's King Tycoon, and now we're going to play hide and seek with him. So you got to run around the town and figure out where exactly King Tycoon is hiding. So funny that we mentioned hide and seek twice in one episode. Oh, there he is, and runs off again. And so just got to keep an eye out for where exactly it is he's hiding. So running around these buildings, there's specific spots like that where he will show up, and that's basically how this entire section works, is just finding the spots where he's actually hiding. This is in double speed because it is kind of a pain in the ass to make him appear everywhere. Oh, there he is, right inside the building. And here's the last section, and Faris says Papa there to King Tycoon, which is sort of the reveal now that King Tycoon is actually Faris's father. All of the hints that have been being dropped, yes, Lena and Faris are sisters. The pendant, the whole older sister in the castle, everything they've been talking about. So, yeah, Faris didn't want to tell her, wasn't sure about it. She wasn't certain. Lena kind of was right from the get-go. And, yeah, it turns out they are sisters, so they've reconciled. Galuf's awake and trying to find a way out from where he is in this little side room. As you can see there, he's kind of trapped, and they can't find him, and they must have got separated when they fell, and Avros is a cold-hearted bastard here, so he's like, yeah, he's fine, he's old, he's tough, he'll be fine, we'll run into him later, let's just move on without him. Which Galuf overhears and starts smacking the wall to try and get their attention, which they don't hear. And one of the badass moments of Galuf here climbs around underneath in all that weird stuff underground and's like, hey, hang on a second, that was a quick decision to abandon me. So on we go now with Galuf back in the party, into this next room, and find this weird platform that starts glowing. And hey look, we're getting teleported again, just like from the inside of the meteor. This time we're getting teleported a long way. So we've gone from the desert there, all the way across the ocean, and back to Crescent Island? Okay, so this whole platform starts to come apart on them, and kind of just have to run your way to the exit. This is all cutscene, it's not really player controlled. So you get outside, and everyone's like, okay, we all here, are we all safe? Meanwhile, there's the Black Chocobo again, being flown to Crescent Island by somebody, and they landed in the middle of the forest, which is something you typically don't do with the Black Chocobos, because then they disappear and you have to come back here to capture another one, so, yeah, Cid and Mid brought it back and said that I'd be thrilled about it. I'm not gonna lie, not particularly thrilled, so, we got warped here, the mechanism overloaded, and after a bit of explanation through a underground, facility there, they find a switch which they push, and it opens a hole under Cid and Mid, and they fall into the ground, and the Chocobo's confused. Pressing on from here, you can see here that they find the fire-powered ship underground, and another ship with propellers? And, as Ever says, what's up with that? Propellers on a boat, and Cid and Mid drop in. So, here's Cid and Mid, they're okay, they're wondering what we're doing here. We're also wondering, where are they here? Like, where'd they come from? Why are they here? And so they tell Avros we're underneath Crescent Island. Cid's busy looking around underneath the ship and everything like that. And Cid finally notices he's gone. Sorry, Mid finally notices he's gone. And we kind of have to follow them under the decks. Either find something similar to the area we were just in the facility. And there's a whole bunch of cogs and gears and stuff here, and Cid's like, hey, leave me alone. And starts messing around with this ship. And apparently that should do it. As everyone says, do what? And as he mentions, get the ship moving. Because, as you might have guessed with the propellers, it's an airship. So we've got our first flying vehicle in the same episode where we got our first sort of flight other than the Windrake in the Chocobo, which is a bit less restricted, and built by the ancients these were, and finally get to see one in the flesh, as Cid says, only for something to grab the ship and start dragging it down, and creeping crawdads, some monsters got a death grip on the ship's hull. So here's the Kraid Claw, a bit of a lazy boss, for anyone who remembers. It's just a grey recolor of Carlaboss from the Torna Canal. That being said, we're much better equipped now. It's still got the same annoying attack to reduce your health very low, but it's also very, very weak to thunder damage, and it's just gone. Like, it's not even a difficult fight at all. We get a frostbow from it for a ranger, so that's kind of handy. And Overgrown Lobster got served with cheese biscuits and mashed potatoes, so I guess everyone's hungry for lobster. And Sid takes control of the ship, flies it back down onto the launch pad, and we descend back underground for some repairs to the ship, and they can use the parts from the fire-powered ship, which we don't need anymore, as the airship can also drive on water. And we need to go and find the Earth Crystal while they repair the ship. So, as Gals let us know, we're trying to stop X-Death, so let's do it. All we gotta do is find the Earth Crystal and stop X-Death, so away we go on our brand new airship, which I thought they needed to repair, but I guess we just get to fly it away. So that's going to be it for this episode. I'll catch you in the next one when we use our airship to go and get the Earth Crystal, and thank you all for watching.